Hello you lovely people, welcome back to the channel. I can't stay in the Philippines. I can't settle in the Philippines is comments I get from many of you, and I can understand why, because of the reasons that you've told me, and kind of analysing comments and having an understanding of how you're feeling is similar to the feelings that I had when I was here, and still do from time to time. I still get these feelings of, oh, these bloody brownouts, I'm so hot, I'm sweaty, it's humid, it's night time, the mosquitoes are biting. But for me, it's not enough to warrant me packing a suitcase and leaving, because I simply couldn't anyway. I've got a family here now, I've got a young child, I've got a wife. But if I was single, I would probably have tried Thailand. I would have done, I think, because I've not been to any other Southeast Asian country. I would have probably have tried Thailand or Vietnam or something like that, Cambodia even. But as I can't do them things, I'm stuck here. And you might think, oh, he says he's stuck here because he doesn't want to be here. Well, I do want to be here. And this video is about the people that have came here and couldn't hack it. And I don't know what the percentage is. I would imagine it's quite high, because again, depending on where you are, I mean, if you're in a province like I am here, with all coconut trees and trees growing over the power cables, we do have quite a lot of brownouts, especially during these winds and storms that we've been having. In the cities, like in Dipolog City for an example, they don't get so many brownouts. They do get them, but let's just say for every 10 brownouts we get, they might get one. And of course, in the city, the electric company know when it's a brownout. Here where we are in this little barangay, it's expected that one of the residents, it's normally me that does it, when there's a brownout, we phone up Zanico, the electricity company, and then, because they don't know. Because if no one tells them, they don't know. So then they come out and fix it. And it normally doesn't take them very long. It's normally just a trip that's happened, it's like trip to, a switch out somewhere, and they come, you see them come down in their van, and I think, yes, the electric will be back on soon. And within 10 minutes you see them go back up, and then they switch it on up the top, so it's back on. So that's just like one reason, isn't it? And there are a lot of reasons why many people have come to the Philippines and can't settle here. It's not easy. I'm not going to sugarcoat things, people. It's not easy. It all depends on how you can adapt and how much you want to be here. Now, because of the videos that I've made in the past about how easy it is to get yourself into trouble with a Filipino and that, a lot of comments have been, well, I couldn't live in a country where I'm walking on eggshells. Well, I've never felt in 8 years I've been here that I've been walking on eggshells. I haven't. Because these cases, like I said, happen far few and in between. So don't let that stop you coming here, okay? If that's the only reason stopping you coming, don't let it stop you, because the chances of that happening to you, you get into trouble with your Filipino and she makes a report against you, is probably never going to happen. So don't let that put you off. Other things here is, it's all to do with infrastructure, because we are in a developing country. Don't forget that, don't come here like I did. I didn't know much about the Philippines. I knew a little bit about the history and the Spanish and the Americans and that when they were here. I knew a little bit about that, but I didn't know much about the culture of the place. And one of the things I'm going to say is, and perhaps you people know it, perhaps you don't. I didn't know it, and I was quite taken back. When I was on a bus going to Asamis, it wasn't this year, it was last year, when I was doing my annual report. Now, the bus stops outside of lots of cemeteries, not because it's just where the bus stops are or where the people flag them down. Now, in these cemeteries, I noticed some of the fronts have been smashed open. And I thought, that's not right. Someone's vandalising these graves, these entombments. So I thought, no, I can't. Is the body still in there? Can people still see the body? Well, I come back and I said it. Like I mentioned it to my wife because I went there on my own, and she said, yeah. She says it's probably because the people haven't paid the lease on the grave. What? She said, yeah. She said, here in the Philippines, when you are buried in these graves here, it's a 5-year lease, generally a 5-year lease. So you are leasing your resting place. And if the families don't pay after that 5-year lease is up, then it's horrible. Then they break it open, take you out in a sack. Because when my wife was telling me this, I thought, no, that can't be right. She's got this wrong. So I Googled it and it's true. And I went onto YouTube and I actually saw them doing it. And I'm like taken aback by this. So what they do, they take you out, not in a dignified way. They take you out and they put you in a sack. In a sack, like an old cement sack. And then they take you to a common mass burial place and just, put you there. So that was like, I thought, my God. I said, Mira, when I die, because I'll probably be buried here, I said, don't let that happen to me. Don't let them, drag me out and, and put me in a sack and, put me in this mass burial place. I won't know about it, of course I won't, but it's just the thought of it. So I think I'll get cremated. That's the way to go. But yeah, so there is many traditions and customs here that is far, far away from ours. Like that, for an example. And, you've got to, and many vloggers say this. I've said it, I can't remember how many times, but I'll say it again. You've got to get rid of that Western mindset when you come here. It's very difficult to do, people. It's very difficult to do. I had a terrible time for a couple of years. Really, I did. I struggled. Because I was thinking, watching people doing things in the way that they do, I think, why are you doing it like that? Why are you doing it, But it's their way of doing things. It's the same as if a Filipino come to England and they saw the way that we were doing things, they would probably think the same way. Now, we automatically think that our way is better because for some reason, I don't know why, for some reason, the Westerners think that we are the best. Well, it's not true, is it? I've seen some of these Filipinos work and think, oh, that's a bloody good idea. And they seem to be very, they kind of improvise and they upcycle everything. They really do. They don't throw anything away. They just make something out of it, like an electric fan. When an electric fan breaks, I just chuck it away. I don't know, I give it to my neighbour. Because he makes something out of it. Like from the cover, he will make a barbecue, like a barbecue tray. Push the fish on and he puts the charcoal underneath. He's got an instant griddle, if you like. Something that I wouldn't think of. So here it's kind of primitive in a way. It's primitive in a way. But it's not primitive where it's Stone Age. It's primitive as they do things, but they do some things very well. Things that I wouldn't think of because we've been brought up in a different way. We've been brought up in a more modern society than what it is here. So I would imagine my grandfather did things the same way as what they're doing it here. I would imagine, when things... Because don't forget, in the West, we got things easy. We can easily go out and buy what we want. Here, where I am, I've got to search for something. And finding it is very difficult. Like parts for my car. I needed to buy something the other day. And in England, I could just go to a motor factors and I could order it. And I'd probably get it the same day or the day after. Here, I had to go to many different places. And because there was no computer system where I am, they just couldn't put in the registration number or the chassis number and say, yes, there's the part from the shelf, or order it. No, you got to take it off and you got to take it there and let them match it up with something. So it is primitive here to what we compared with, or in comparison to where we come from in the West. But to live here permanently, it's not easy. It's simply not easy, people. You know, many of my friends think that I'm in paradise all the time, and I'm not. I'm not. Most of the time, yes, I am. But there is sometimes when my internet is slow and I'm trying to work, or the internet goes off without warning and you don't know when it's going to come back on. There's phone numbers you can call, but you know, the communication for me is probably the most difficult. Now, there's an easy solution to that. And the solution is, I'm in this country, I should learn their language. I shouldn't expect them to understand everything I'm saying. Although many of you think Filipinos can speak very good English. Some can, some can't, depending on education level and depending on where you come from. So this is another reason why people can't stay here, people can't live here, is because of that. And I know a lot of foreigners don't like the fact that the Filipinos can, and probably do in a lot of instances, take advantage. And I mean take advantage when we go and buy something. You know, they will see a kano, as they call us, a kano, and they will instantly increase the price. And it does happen. I can't say it doesn't, because it does. It's happened to me several times. A few pesos I don't mind. I don't mind paying over the top for a few pesos, but I don't like, for an example, I had to buy a clutch cable. That's what I had to buy when I was going to try and get a part from my car. So I said to one of the guys, I can do it myself, but I don't want to crawl on the floor and get under the van, because, you know, I'm not a young man anymore. And I haven't got no ramps. I've only got one jack that came with the car, so I haven't got, the equipment to do it safely for me. So I asked a mechanic to do it, and I said to him, "How much will you charge?" And he said 1,500. I said, "No chance, no chance. 1,500 for a 10-minute job." And I said, "No." I said, "It's okay." He says, "No, 1,000." I said, "No, it doesn't matter. It don't matter." And I got it done from a different mechanic for 200 pesos. Because I asked him how much he charged. He said, "Oh, 200 pesos, sir." I says, "Thank you." And I give him 300. But that 1,500 pesos could really wind a foreigner up. It didn't wind me up, but I just thought, oh God almighty, here we go again. Here we go again. Because, you know, some people call it skin tax. Some people call it extortion, if you like. But it's just how it is. It's how it is in the Philippines. Like those graves I said, when you lease a grave for 5 years. After that 5 years, you don't pay the lease. You get exhumed and you get put in a common mass grave with every other bones that they take out. It's money here all the time, people. Everything revolves around money. Money in the Philippines is the most important thing, like it is in our country, but not as much, because most people in our country have got more money. These day and age, probably not. And I see the way the Filipinos live here on less money than what most Westerners have, and they have a happier life, because there is not so much charges here for things like council tax, like high income tax, high value added tax on items. Here it's not like that. Yes, people pay a 10 or 12% tax if it's over that, that bracket here. But in general, living here, you've got to get rid of that mindset. Getting back to the topic, you've got to. Because if you don't get rid of that mindset, then this place will drive you mad. It'll drive you crazy. It will drive you to despair. It will. And many foreigners can't understand the Filipino way of thinking. I can't from time to time. But because I'm mixing with the same Filipinos all the time where I live, and I know all of my neighbours, I kind of get into grips or understanding how they tick. Now, most of them are always thinking pesos or peso. Most of them are always thinking that. How to make a peso. I always get that wrong. They always thinking that. And when they see you, they could possibly see you as, that's their way to make a peso, is through you. Now, because I've lived here for so long, they don't with me. But if I want little jobs doing, they always charge me more, and this is always, people, this is always, they always charge me slightly higher than what they would their own. Now, a lot of people might say, well, that's all right because you got more money than them. Well, yes, to a degree, but not all of them. Don't forget, I'm still working. I've got no pension. I'm building a house. I've got a child. I've got a wife to take care of. And my wife doesn't work, so I'm the only breadwinner in the house. So these payments mount up over time. They mount up, and you try and work things out, and you probably pay a third more than a normal Filipino. A lot of foreigners can't swallow that. I do, because I live here. I've been here for 8 years, you know. I don't want to upset my neighbours. I don't want to say, what are you charging? You know, and they'll punch me in the mouth. So I don't want to do that. I just think, well, that's a little... Sometimes I say, what? And they will say, oh, a little bit less. You know, when I was getting my floor concreted outside on the terrace, and it was Pacquiao, price work. And I said, it was only going to take him 3 hours to do it. He said, I said, how long is that? About 3 hours. So I said, how much? 2,000? He said, no, 2,500. Now, the person who was working with him, he said, how much do you charge? You 1.5? I said, no, 2.5. He said, that, you know. So there is that. But things like that, I don't mind. I don't mind, because I'm still getting a very job, like a cheap job done, really. But then we can't keep thinking, well, in my own country, you know, that there would have cost me £500. So I'm getting it done really cheap for 2,500 pesos, like 75 quid or whatever it is, or 65 quid, pounds. You can't think like that, because I used to think, oh, it's cheap, it's cheap. But when you're in your own country, your salary is significantly more than what you can earn here if you're working. So I kind of think like that now. I don't think, oh, well, that's cheap, that's really cheap compared. Well, you aren't in your own country, you're here. So you can't do comparisons all the time either. You simply can't. And there's a few foreigners that I know, and they are still here. I believe they're still here. I haven't seen them for quite a while, but I haven't heard that they've left. But they are very discontented being here, because they just can't settle. They can't fit in with the Filipino way of life, and they are just tormenting themselves by staying here for longer. So don't torment yourself. If you don't like it here, and you've been here for quite some time and you still can't settle, the chances are you're never going to settle here, unless you change your ways. Or maybe you have changed your ways and you don't like how you've had to change your ways to fit in. Well, you'll never fit in properly with the Filipinos, but you know, to be able to live here. So don't torment yourselves. Don't torment yourselves. If you can't make it work here, then try a different Southeast Asian country like Thailand. Apparently Thailand is much cleaner. The food is better. I don't know if it's cheaper or not. Maybe for some things, it may be not for, for other things. But I think here in the Philippines, the visa system is very easy. You can stay for 3 years on a tourist visa if you come from certain countries. If you come from these other countries that are not on that list, then you can stay for 2 years. And you can simply, I think they're making it a little bit harder now, but you could simply leave the country for 24 hours. I think it's 24 or 48 hours. Then you can come back to the Philippines and reset your visa for another 3 years. But I think they're making that a little bit more, or they following the rules a bit more now. They are implementing what's already been passed a long time ago, where they might ask you, well, why are you coming back? Why don't you get a SRRV, or if you're married, why don't you get a 13A? So I think they are making that a little bit more troublesome now. But to live here, if you're settled, and you can settle, and you like it here, then the chances are you'll never want to leave. I don't want to leave. Like I said, there's sometimes I think, fucking hell, electric's off again. Daytime, it doesn't bother me when the electric's off, but nighttime it does. But what I did used to do, people, I don't now, but what I did used to do, when the power used to go off of a nighttime, I used to just go and book into a cheap hotel in Dipolog, when I lived in Dipolog. And I used to book into a hotel, I think it was called the Happy Hotel or something, the Happy Tel. And it was about then, I'm going back a few years, maybe 700 pesos a night. It was aircon, because they got their own generator, see? So, oh yes, yes, yes. But then I thought, I can't keep doing this all the time, I'll be bankrupt. 800 pesos 2 or 3 times a week, you know, you keep doing that all the time. So then I just thought, well, I've got to get used to it. And then I bought a generator. And it's brilliant. But nighttime I don't like putting it on, because like, I'm considerate, I think, of my neighbours, and it's quite noisy, my generator. So I don't put that on nighttime. Now, a lot of people now are going solar here. And the price for solar is around about 200,000 pesos, I think, for 5 or 6 kilowatts or something like that. But I think it's like 4.5, 5 will run a normal house, I think, something like that. It could be a bit less. But it's about 200,000 without the batteries. Now you get a couple of big batteries, and I think he might push it up to 300 or 350,000 pesos. For me, it's not worth it, because I've got a little generator. It costs about, for 1 hour in my generator, it costs about a litre of gasoline, or maybe 3/4 of a litre of gasoline. I don't use it that much, so for me to warrant spending out 300 or 350,000 pesos, it just doesn't warrant it for me. It doesn't. If I was on the internet all day long, or I couldn't stand the heat, I couldn't stand the humidity, so I needed an aircon constantly, then I might consider it. But we've got no aircon in our house. We don't need it, because here we're surrounded by trees and it's not as hot. It does get hot sometimes, but it's not unbearable, where most of the time, people, we stay on our terraces. I mean, this is what I think when I see people build houses, and they build big houses inside with a small terrace outside. Why? You know, you've got to get out of that way of Western thinking, where you have a little small terrace outside, or a little conservatory, whatever, because you don't spend that much time in it. In England, because it's bloody cold. Here it's the opposite. A small house and a big terrace, which is basically what we've done, really, because we spend most of our time outside the house on the terrace. You know, we've got a table and chairs, or a table, I haven't got the chairs yet, on the terrace, and we've got a settee and another little coffee table, because we spend most of our time outside. We basically only go inside when it's time to sleep, or when my wife is watching the dramas, which is quite often. They love Korean drama. They love it. They addicted to Korean drama. My wife, my God. And I'm thinking, it's not even in English or Tagalog or Visaya. They speak it in Korean. Do you understand it? Nah. I said, why are you watching it? And she said, well, because I can see what's going on by their actions. I'm thinking, my goodness, strange, crazy way of thinking, some of these Filipinos people. Really, really. But, yeah, you know, give it time if you're here. I mean, if you've been here for a considerable amount of time and you still can't settle, chances are you're never going to settle. So then it might be time to move on, because you'll be just antagonizing yourself. You will be tormenting yourself. And time is precious. You know, even when you're young, time is precious. But when you get older and you're ticking into those twilight years and the clock is ticking, the clock doesn't stop. It only stops when you're dead. You know, we should be enjoying our times here or wherever you are, because this is it. This is it. There is nothing else after this, in my opinion. When you're dead, you're dead. So rather than antagonize yourself and torment yourself to the point of despair, if you don't like it here, then move on, isn't it? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean move away if it's not for you. But for me, this is for me. I've adapted very well. I've got a lovely family, a lovely son, and a great dog. Where is my dog? No, he's deserted me. He's deserted me. And I just love it here, people. I really do. And it suits me. So, this is the end of the video. Yeah, those graves things, that's a thing, isn't it? You know, when they take off the front and just scrape you out. Because after 5 years, there's not much left of you. The bones are there, and there's a bit of skin, a bit of tuft of hair. Can't stand the thought of that. Pretty strange. Anyway, people, thank you. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And thank you for taking the time. People, thank you for your support. Take good care always. God bless you. Bye-bye.